have done it through their ability to license distributors. That's effectively how the DEA does that. Because remember, the DEA doesn't license a pharmacy. I mean, they hold a DEA license, but it's not at the level of distribution. So it's a hard issue for the federal government to be involved with, but there is an appropriate role, again, by a clearinghouse function.
I think if we went for that goal, it would not fly. If we only mandate surrounding states to share information,
Oh, no, it would be national. It would be.
I think if you go for national, it's not going to work because there's too many issues with what do you call it, protecting patient security, confidentiality. Thank you. HIPAA laws. It's not going to fly. Whereas surrounding, and it was the federal government that said it's mandatory for all states to have a PMP in place by a certain time. And the state of Maryland was one of the last states to implement it.
I know, I was there for those discussions. Again, you walk a fine line because you do have physicians and practitioners who have pain-related practices who will naturally have a higher level of prescribing than a physician who's in family practice who doesn't see a lot of pain patients. And then the question is, and again, there were many, many issues such as, how do you intervene, when do you intervene, who decides how much is too much for a prescriber to prescribe. So they're tricky issues, but again, I will follow up with the DA on the clearinghouse function, which is, again, to make sure that the states communicate with each other, whether it involves the federal government or not. Possessing some of that data, I don't think it necessarily has to, but they should coordinate PMPs between different states.
Ms. Garrity, do you have anything to add to the report?
No, I don't.
Any other council member have any questions, comments?
Oh, I did want to point one thing out. Our state's attorney, there's an article about the cigarette smuggling and how it was linked to terrorism. Recently we had a liquor raid on our stores in Cecil County. Our proximity to New York makes it very lucrative for mass amounts of liquor to be sold to New York. And was wondering if there was something that maybe the federal government would want to look into. I'm sure there's a link as well with terrorism because there's massive amounts of money to be made. I think that's the common denominator. Just want to bring it to your attention. And I can give you the federal prosecutor's name. I can contact with him.
Congressman Harris, we want to thank you for coming to Cecil County and listening to our concerns. And if there's anything you can do to help us resolve some of these issues, we'd appreciate it.
If there's anything that we can do to help you facilitate resolution on the issues.
Sure, and no, I thank you, and County Executive Moore, thank you for the offer, and I will, as I deal with all these three issues that are huge issues, clearly, and really all three, although the drug issue clearly other jurisdictions in Maryland have those, the other two are unique to Cecil County. I mean, they're predominantly Cecil County issues. We will. Again, we'll work on some of the things that have been brought up today, and Councilwoman Bromell. The other thing is, what the HIDA? What is that? That's a grant from the Department of Justice. Where's that grant come from? Do you know? Or that designation? If you could just.
Yes, Department of Justice.
It's a DOJ. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we'll look into where those. I'm sorry, I took this note here, but I didn't. I asked you before that. We'll look into where that stands.
I can give you Tom Carr's number. He's the East Coast representative for HIDA.
Okay.
Congressman Harris, Councilman McCarthy has one last comment.
Just a few issues. Number one, if you look at the first map we spoke to, you see where it says Pennsylvania, looks like there's a star above it, or a white spot.
Yep.
We're looking at a drainage area which is greater than the size of West Virginia. That, to get to the origin of the Susquehanna River, you'd have to drive 300 miles from here. The plume of water you're seeing going down the Potomac is well over 100 miles, just to put things in perspective. The oysters which were at Tillman's probably 2 years ago were buried under one event by 2 feet of mud. So that's why they can't live there. In view of these things, I mean, also they contribute tremendously to the amount of material that needs to be dredged from the shipping channels in the Northern Bay. One of my major concerns is whether or not Pennsylvania and New York, the major contributors to our sediment problems, are doing anything at all, and if so, is it voluntary or mandated? There should be a way to quantify their efforts. The other thing is because of the sediments that are dug would have to be placed in Pierce's Creek, I was curious if you would be willing to make appropriation to allocate the money to assist with the replacement of these wells or good drinking water for the folks in the Pierce Creek area.
Well, to the last point, we can't do that because earmarking is no longer allowed in the House or Senate. So you can't name a project. Now that being said, you can encourage the Army Corps through budget language to do that kind of project. And I know from my discussions with them, this is the only project like that in the nation right now. So you can't name it, but you can. And again, I think it's an important project for them to do because it will be new technology. I mean, they've told me, and I was a little surprised when they told me that they just really haven't tried this anywhere for this purpose. So it is new technology, and I would encourage them to do it somewhere. And if that happens to be Pierce Creek, let's do it and document that it works. They have very good engineers. They think this is going to solve the problem. And of course, with proper monitoring wells, I mean, we would know that. I've made it clear to them that I want mitigation efforts at Pierce Creek. Beyond that, it becomes much more difficult naming it because of the rules under which we operate.
The last thing I might mention.
And just to answer you, that was your last comment. The first comment, I've been told in a meeting, because I had a lengthy meeting with Chesapeake Bay Foundation about this issue about the Conowingo Dam. And I'm told that they tell me that Pennsylvania and New York have plans in place. I don't know how to confirm how to confirm that or not. They tell me they are, but again, if you have other information, I'd love to know it because pretty clearly, Maryland is marching on, regardless of what other states are doing or not doing, which is not the philosophy behind that agreement. That agreement was supposed to be a multi-state agreement where all states were supposed to be taking an active role. And I suspect, my suspicion is we're more active than others.
Well, I believe that you're absolutely correct, but I think that the effort should be placed in decreasing the amount of sediment that washes down from those areas. So basically, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, in my humble opinion.
Sure. Either that, or you dredge above the dam and you find a place to put the spoil. And it doesn't have to be above the Conowingo. It could be above any of those. It could be above one of those 2 northern dams. I mean, the only reason the Conowingo is filled up is because those 2 northern dams filled up first.
Dam coming down.
That's right. That's right. But you can mitigate the problem not just by Conowingo. You can mitigate the problem with the other dams as well.
Yes, you could, but you could dig it all out, get rid of it, and it would just begin to fill up again. Unless you control the erosion from that area.
The best collection system ever invented to capture sediment is a dam. So if we can clean out the dam, it will be good for another 80 years.
I'm told that if that's done, it's such a huge undertaking that you never really, you would just, probably the best we could hope to do is devise some system where we just continuously remove, whatever's flowing down from above, maybe a little bit more every year, but I'm afraid we'll never do. Pardon the expression, we'll never get to the bottom of it.
Even if we address some of it. I just wanted to point out too, after speaking with Bill Haynes, that the Army Corps of Engineers, I think there was litigation in Louisiana. There
was, but it hasn't been completed yet.
Exactly, so it's still pending, and
that's right.
So that goes along with the who's responsible for the mitigation.
I know, but their feeling, and of course that's their bias, is they will prevail in that because of the fairly clear reading of the statute.
I appreciate.
I'm not sure whether, I'm not saying that's right, that's just,
Yeah.
that's just the way the law reads.
I appreciate your saying that you're gonna base it on science, the effectiveness of that liner, but we have to have a detection
Sure.
system. And then if it's detected, what is the, way that they're gonna repair it?
Okay, the county council is gonna recess for, 15 minutes till 10:45. In the meantime, Congressman Harris, I hope you can talk to us and stay around a little bit longer, and I know there's a member of the audience who'd like to speak to you. So, county council members be back here at 10:45, please.